whatever language we write, our browser always interprets the language back to JavaScript. Okay. Now, if so, React is a form. It's a form of JavaScript. There are other ones. We have Tailwind CSS. We have Tailwind CSS is a form of Tailwind. It's a form of CSS. Now, but basically, before JavaScript came into view, we had HTML, hypertext markup language, and CSS, cascading style sheets, to form the skeleton of the website, the front end skeleton. That the HTML deals with the text and images, while the JavaScript, while the CSS deals with the adding images, adding shapes, adding a texture around the skeleton that we form. Okay, so there's this example, there's this vivid example I love when I want to teach web development. Okay, I love teaching web development with this example, so that whenever you want to build a website, you picture a website like a building, a house that you want to live in. Okay, now whenever we are in front of a house, we see just the shape of the house. We don't get to see inside the house. You understand? Now, that is your front end. Normally, everybody calls that the front view of the house. You see now in front of the view, in front of the house, we see windows, we see a doorway, we see paint. The house is painted. The house is beautified. In fact, sometimes they write names on top of the house, like a description of what the house entails. So your front end deals with descriptions, details, images, and stuff like that. Now the back end is assessed whenever we are given a key to the house. Okay, that's backend development. Backend development deals with things our customers necessarily won't interact with physically. It's at the back of the front end. It's what the server deals with. Okay, what the computers deals with. The backend processes all the information, so to speak, that we send across the server. So most of the time, I picture my backend as a kitchen. Okay, now whenever a person enters a house, they are welcome as a guest. Now they are welcome because they give them an access key and an access token inside the house. You can't enter a house. Whenever you enter a house without an access key, you are considered a robber. You are considered a thief. So before you access a website and you want to access the back end of the website, you need to get an access key. And what is the access key that we normally have? We have our username and our password. Your username is just like telling the person inside that my name is Emmanuel Odekunle, and then he asks you, okay, how do I verify that you are actually Emmanuel Odekunle and not Salisu Peter? You understand? Now I need to provide him a access key that he has given me before, and say, okay, my password is 1234, and it's unique to me alone. Emmanuel Odekunle only has 1234 as his password. If I quote another access key, I say, oh, my password is ABCD, it will deny me access to that house, to that interface, to all the other things that is stored within the backend server. Okay, so the backend is controlled basically by a server, and there are several servers that we have, but we won't go into that much detail because this is just an overview of what backend and front end is all about. And then the last layer of website development is continuous integration and DevOps. Now, continuous integration is the system of you writing further instructions for your language and allowing it to add on to what you've written earlier on before. Okay. Now, CI/CD was not in vogue before because a lot of people just do their local thing and then they wrap it up and push it online to the server without continuous integration. But continuous integration helps you manually and automatically sync what you have already with what you now have currently. Okay. So I'm going to dive a little bit into the practical of front-end development, and I'm going to share my screen and show us a little of how you start up with a website. Okay, are we following, please? Hello.
Hello.
Are we following?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now shortly, and I'm going to show us an environment now where we normally start off with building a website. Okay, so let me show a new window now. Okay, now the interface you are looking at here. Okay, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so the window. Can you all see my screen, please?
No.
Not yet. How about now?
Yes, I'm seeing it right now.
Great, 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 great. Okay. How about the others, please? Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see it.
Great, great, great. Good to hear. So, now I have a blank interface. Now, this program, this particular software is called Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio. It's a integrated development environment for building websites and applications. Integrated development environment. I'm hearing some background noise, please. Can we mute, please? It's an integrated development environment for building applications. Now, this is where you where you where you where you can do your CI/CD and DevOps. Okay. Now, so there are two principles of building a website. The first principle could be a monolithic principle, wherein that your backend and your front end lives in the same folder. Okay. Now, for example, if I want to build a backend, I'm going to containerize them into folders. Okay. I'm going to show us a monolithic way of building websites. Now, I'm going to go to file here, and in file here, I'm going to open a new folder. Okay. I'm going to open a new folder. It's going to bring me out to a folder. Come in. Let me reshare my screen so that we can see everything I'm doing at once. Let me reshare my screen. Stop. Share screen. Let's entire screen. Okay, can we see my screen now? Can we see my screen now, please?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, it's coming up. Share. How about now?
Maybe it's loading. It doesn't come up yet.
Okay. Do we have it now?
Not yet. You can ask other people. I don't know. But not yet. No.
Okay, let me just open the new window back again. Okay, 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 okay. You can see my screen. You can see my Windows environment, right?
I'm unable to see anything. Just still on the voice call.
Still on the voice call. Okay. Let me reload my page. Hello. Can we
Yes,
hear?
I hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Great, 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 great. Okay. So still in the process of sharing my screen with us. Um, okay. Can we see my screen now? Do we see my screen now?
Yes, I know that
Can you please people to be able to create both the front end part of the code and then the back end part of the code? People that in front, and there are people that work with back end part. So they are going to now join the two of them to build something called the routing system. Now, so most of the time when you are a full stack developer, you necessarily see websites where you have both your front end and the back end. Where you are, whether you're a full stack developer or a back end developer, then you're not necessarily going to build microservices. That's just a little overview. So I'm going to go and create a folder. Now the folder will actually bear the name of my website, basically. Now I'm going to create a folder view. We have new folder 4. Or let's just go with that for now. So I can select that folder. So one second. Are we still in place?
Yes, sir.
Showing. Why my VS Code is starting up again, because I'm thinking I'm having some issues with my VS Code. Let me explain something very important. Now, uh, I was talking about the fact that we have different programming language for different front end and back end applications. Now, I told us earlier on that we have React, which is the most popular for now for building front end pages, and React is a form of JavaScript. Now, JavaScript, there are many other forms of JavaScript, but React is the most popular for now for building web pages. For building backend applications, we have several of them as well. We have PHP, that's hypertext processor. We have Node.js. We have JS. We have Python. But in Python, we actually use a framework, either Flask or Django. Flask on Ruby on Rails, etc. Okay. Most of the time, many of us specialize because there's specialization in web development. You're not just scattered around trying to learn every single programming language that is available to build a website, because basically you're going to still arrive at the same objective is to learn how to create a website and learn how to create a website that is usable. Depends on you, but it depends on how fast you're able to learn one programming language or the other. So on a rundown, there's this little acronym that we form for programmers, basically for us to know, okay, which style, which kind of stack we should learn to arrive at the goal of creating a website. So there are many. We have MERN stack, MERN stack. Now, MERN stack means MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. Okay, that's one stack. Are we can I hear what I said just now? Can I repeat what I said? We have what kind of stack, please?
The main stack.
Hello.
Alright.
MERN stack. What is MERN stack? It's an acronym for MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. Okay. Now, the React part of it is the front end part of it. The MongoDB is the database part of it. The Node.js part is the backend part of it, and Express is also a backend part of the move, because Express is a framework under Node.js. Okay. Now we have LAMP stack. We have people that go vanilla stack. Now vanilla is basically the simplest part of the stack, the simplest, which is HTML, CSS, and pure vanilla JavaScript. Okay. We have people that use PHP for their backend and React for their front end. People that use HTML for their front end and PHP. It's different assortments. It's just like cooking. RAM is also like cooking. You want to cook jollof rice, definitely you're going to pick rice to be the basic ingredients. Then you can now start adding pepper, some white pepper, some white cucumber, etc. Just to arrive at the same jollof rice, or it's going to taste differently, and it's going to take a while before you're able to get some ingredients to boil or something like that. I'm just using that as a practical example because I like relating programming to real life example. Earlier on, I told you that when you approach programming as if you're building a house. Okay, are we getting it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're getting it. Great. I'm still waiting for my VS Code to start. Okay, so let me just do something. Yes, from here. Let me pick one of my recent projects. Okay. Open OSX. I'm trying to share my screen again with every one of us. So okay. New window 4. Okay, I've been able to create my new window. Now that is the file. Now we can rename that window right in VS Code. But for now, let's just go with this. Now, after opening window 5, now I want to build something called a monolithic website. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is something called folder structuring. Folder structuring. Now, in my folder, I'm going to separate it into two concerns. Are you following, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm going to separate it into two components. The first one is I'm going to create backend, and the second one is I'm going to create front end. So right here, I'm going to go to folder because both of them are going to be folders. I'll create this folder, I'll type in, I'll click on this button because it's a folder button. This other button is a file button. This one is refresh, and this one is minimize. Okay, so here I'm going to write backend. Now I have my backend folder. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to write front end. So what happens is that everything pertaining to backend programming goes into the front end folder, and rather everything pertaining to front end programming goes into front end folder. Everything pertaining to backend programming goes into backend folder. No mismatch, no bringing anything in front end into back end folder or bringing anything in front end. Both of them are clearly defined inside my monolith program. Okay, now in backend, in front end, I told us that we have several things, several components that make up our front end. Okay, we have um, something called packages. Okay, now packages is a broad view of several pre-existing code bases, that have been built already to make our work faster. It's not like we are going to go back to the farm and go and plant cassava because we want to eat gari. Abi, do we understand? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yes, so you're not going back to the farm because you want to bring Gary. You are actually going to the market to actually see, oh, have someone went to the farm and that person have they already processed their Gary? So those are packages. Now, the biggest package library in the world of programming for now is called NPM, which is Node Package Manager. Node Package Manager. There are still other packages depending on the programming language. Now, NPM works with basically Node.js applications, but it still works in some other applications, basically JavaScript applications. Now, in NPM packages, we have both the front end packages and then the back end packages already bundled into that packages. If we, for example, now this is the NPM library. We just go to our browser, we call NPM library. Okay, it's going to bring us to a website called www.npmjs.com. It's JavaScript. It's basically going to be more of JavaScript. Let me read this short. It said NPM pack is a package manager for the JavaScript programming language maintained by NPM Incorporated. It's a subsidiary of GitHub and is the default package manager for most JavaScript runtime environments, that is Node.js, and it's included as it is included a recommended feature in the Node.js installer. So if you're actually working with Node.js as a language, that is your immense stack programmer, you are going to have to do a lot of coming to NPM to download packages. Okay, is that well understood, please?
Yes, sir. I'm with you, sir.
Okay. I'm only getting one person replying.
Yeah, we are. Yes, sir.
Williams, I've not gotten any reply from you since. Hello. Okay. Let's proceed.
Aye, sir.
Okay. So we come to NPM packages, and in NPM we get a lot of packages. If I go here, see lots of packages right in NPM library. Let me take us through some of the packages and what they do basically. So let's see. So I typed in Node, for example. Now it says for the node I type now, there are 1,000 packages available. Now, each of these packages do different things. They do different things. For example, I have one here called types.node. Now, that's a TypeScript definition for Node. Okay. Now, I have another one. It says Node API, add-on API. I have another one. So, Node centric Node call register production. I have different other types of packages. Now, to initialize node packages, we usually use a command in our terminal, and I think I should do that I should take us through that quickly. Now, in Node.js, there's in VS Code, there's various various tabs that we have to go through when we are actually making up our websites. This is modern web development. This is not traditional web development like we have earlier on. This is modern web development. We're in the modern day, and you shouldn't be doing things that 1960 programmers were doing earlier on. Yes. So modern web development ensures that you actually use something called the terminal environment. And in VS Code, how do we get our terminal? We actually go right here and go to terminal, and then we create new terminal. A pop-up will come up right here, showing us the terminal environment. Now we can see it will give us our folder structure where we are in the folder. Now we have this PS is called PowerShell. The C is the Windows directory. This user is a folder in my Windows directory. This HP is the name of the computer. This new folder is our new folder 4 is where we are. Now, if I want to go to my backend, I want to install anything in my backend, I'm going to type cd backend. Immediately, the terminal recognizes that I want to move to my backend folder. Okay. Now, if you type anything in the terminal and it doesn't recognize that command, it's going to throw you this red error. Don't be freaked out when you see this red error. What it means is that your terminal doesn't understand that command. Now, so CD backend is a way to move from the parent folder into a subfolder. Okay. Now, if I go back again, I click on another new terminal. So I have two terminals here. I can have multiple terminals working on two different things at the same time. You understand? Okay. So I have multiple folders here. So I want to show us a little presentation of what I've been doing so far. So good. And I'm going to go to one of my projects and give us a demonstration of how it looks, how a fully functional web environment looks in terms of coding. So I'm going to go here, file, open recent, pack it. Okay. Now, in this place, you will see my folder structure. Can we see my folder structure? Hello.
Hi, sir.
Can we see my folder structure? Can we read my okay. I have what here? Backend. I have frontend, and I have something called GitHub, and I have a README, and I have an orchestrator. Okay. Now I'm having an orchestrator here because this is a cybersecurity project. You understand? So it includes another extra folder structure because this is different from both of them. Now, so in my backend folder now, I have a list of many other folders. Okay. I have my Node modules, meaning I'm coding in Node.js. I have my source, SRC. In my source, it contains a lot of other folders called the MVC structure, model, view, and controller. Model, you can see the models here. Now, there's views. Now, I don't have views here because this is a clean. It's not serving the backend is not serving any route from the front end. That's why it doesn't have a view. Okay, I hope I'm not getting us confused. This is just an overview. When we go further down the class, we'll get to understand all this holistically and get to understand what each folder does, what each types of programming language does, different areas that we have to code, what we have to code in our development. So now now let me go to my package manager, for example. This is my package.json. It's right from npm that I showed us now. In my package manager, you will see something like this. This is how a modern package manager looks. It has the name of the website, which is the backend, the version, the description, the scripts that starts off the website, the dependencies, the dev dependencies, and all. Now we have Axios, Bicrypt, Cherio, Cross, .env, Express, JSON Web Token, MySQL2, SQLize, SQL3, UUID. Now, if I click on any of these, let's say I go to Axios. Now, let me show us where it is on the npm folder. Just come here, Axios. Can we see it? It's the first one. What does Axios do? Axios is a promise-based client for the browser and Node.js. That is a bridge between the browser and your Node.js application. That's what Axios do. If I come here and click on another one, which is here, this is Bicrypt.js. What does Bicrypt do? Bicrypt. Now this is Bicrypt is an optimized Bicrypt in plain JavaScript with zero dependencies, with type-free support, and compatible to Bicrypt. Bicrypt.js is two versions. There's Bicrypt.js and there's Bicrypt. What Bicrypt is a cryptographic way of storing passwords. You know, every time we type in passwords on any computer, we type in our normal password, ade1234, right? Is that how we type our password? It's normally names or numbers or with symbols. Now, if you type in that password that way, your backend receives that password as plain text. And then for us to secure that password, that anybody on the internet does not have access to your password, we use the Bicrypt.js. It's a cryptographic way of changing plain text password to cryptographic password that the computer understands but a human cannot understand. Okay? Do I have an audience, please?
Okay, sir.
Are we confused?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
No. You're with me, right?
Yeah, well, I'll stay with you.
Okay. Are you enjoying the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, I have Bicrypt, there's Cherio, there's Chorus, there's .env, there's Express. Each of them have what they do in my backend folder. Now, that is backend dependencies, because that is I'm working with Node.js, and Node.js has its own dependencies and its own dev dependencies. There's normal dependencies and there's dev dependencies. Okay, we'll get down to that later on in our classes, in our further classes. Now, after that, I've analyzed my backend. So in my backend, I have my package.json, which tells me the JSON tells me how many things I'm using on my backend, how many dependencies I'm using on my backend. Now, I also have an env folder. I'm not going to reveal our env folder here because env is a very, very sensitive information. We keep sensitive information inside our env folder. Okay. Now, then I have my SRCs. My SRCs is the backbone of my backend development. Now, in my SRCs, I have my MVC, model, views, and controllers. Okay. It can be MRC, model, view, route, and controller, different kinds of controllers. Now, my models contain things that is going to talk with something called my database, where I store my users' information or my client's information. That's where my model is. My controller means where I store codes that reach out to my database. Okay. Then my routes tells the browser where to find those information. My script tells the browser the little instructions, little tiny instructions that I want my controller to run before it reaches my models. Then my middleware contains authentications. I don't want anybody to access my information just like that on the internet. I don't want to give access to my doors. Now, imagine you are going to, let me give a very practical example, very practical example of this. Imagine you are having a visit to Aso Rock, which is the Nigerian president's villa, right? Let me ask a question. How many gates get into Aso Rock, into the presidential villa? Do anyone have an idea? Hello?
Hi, sir.
Yeah, I'm asking a question. I'm asking a very important question. How many gates get into Nigerian Aso Rock?
It is well accountable.
Huh?
Accountable bulletproof doors.
Uncountable bulletproof doors. Correct. Now, because why? Why is it like that? How many gates get into your own house?
Just one gate.
Why do you have one gate and someone has multiple gates? Just ask.
GCFR.
Sorry, is the GCFR? Okay. So it needs a lot of what? Gates. Because what is keeping is very important. We are keeping our president in a very secure, highly secure environment because is very important. So before we allow anybody on the internet access many things on our own data GCFR in the website, we need to have middlewares, a lot of middlewares, and there are several middlewares. There's payment middlewares, there's authentication middlewares, there is different kinds of middlewares depending on the kinds of website application we are building. Now let me quickly divert my attention to something else. I told you this is an overview of the course. Now, there are several kinds of websites. You know that, right? We know that there are e-commerce websites where we buy things on the internet. Is it true?
Yes, sir.
Yes. We buy things on the internet. These are called e-commerce websites. There are other websites called fintech. Can someone reduce their volume, please? Hello? Yeah. So there are other websites called fintech hubs. These are websites these are websites like banks. We know WhoPay, we know PalmPay, we know Kuda, we know so. They gatekeep money. These are what this fintech app does. So now, one website is gatekeeping money, one website is gatekeeping clothes. Which website is going to be more secure than the other? Oh, yeah?
The fintech. You won't keep him on.
So you expect more middlewares in fintech app than in an e-commerce website. Okay, these are the principles of backend development. There's very important principles that we do in backend development. Now, so let me now ask a question. Let's say one website is just showing people's birthday party. Does that one need a middleware?
Sorry, come again.
I mean, the website shows everybody that you are doing your birthday on maybe 9th of September 2026. Do I need to add the middleware to that?
Not really.
Not really, because I want everybody to accept those information. So that is essence of middleware. So let me go back to our structure. So we have the controller. I told you the controller talks to the models. Okay, this is where I want the information from. Now, the model is very critical, but before the controller talks to model, he actually has to talk to scripts. And before he talks to script, it actually has to talk to the middleware. So we have configurations too. Configuration keeps sets of instructions as well for our controller too. Okay, and then we have the server. The server. This is a minified version of what of of of, of what the foundation. Let me call that the foundation of the house. Okay, the foundation of the house where everything stands on. Okay, the gates in Aso Rock stand on the foundation or not. They all stand on the foundation. So that is the server. So that is how the backend structure looks like. Now let's go to the front end structure. The front end structure also in modern web development also a little bit looks like the back end, but with some little changes. The first and most important part of the front end structure is called the index page. What did I call it?
Index page.
Or the index page. Now, what the index does is that it allows us to serve one particular page to the audience. Now, when we entered npm website the other time, let me go back. npm.com.ng.com rather, npmjs.com. We got to something called the index or homepage. This particular thing that you're looking at is npm's index page. This is the first thing that your client always sees on the internet. Okay, it's a promotional page to tell everybody this is what my website is about, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. You understand? Okay, so index page, um the index page does promote what your website is all about. So it's a very important part of your website. In fact, most of the time when your website does not have your after the index page, which is the most important, we also have the helping you reduce your backend to from assaulting your anybody can come inside, carry your chair, carry it out, and do anything they want, sell it. You see, with no application is exposed. So, introduction, an overview of what website went here at first. What you do, you're going to be a backend developer. Now, when you're building front-end development applications, you are building what your user is going to actively use. When you're most websites nowadays have both front and backend, and most of them are monolithic in nature. Some of them are not monolithic because they have several things that they are going to deal with. They have to deal with them as microservices. For example, Google.com is not a monolithic. It's a microservice. Several front ends, several backends are integrated into each other. Understand? So, as a front end developer, you're building user interface. You're working with UX developers, UI UX developers, user interface, and user. What we are looking at, if you're a good front end, we're looking at how good how nice is your colors, how nice are your texts, how nice are your graphics. What is the position of your icon? How does your front end animate? You can see that there's a little bit of animation here. These things are going up and down. What is color? How glamorous does your layout look? That is, you are the painter. If a house is going to be beautiful, someone has to paint it beautifully well, and that is the work of a front-end developer. For the back-end developer, now, workings of the environment, you are in the kitchen of the house. Now, what you do, you are the one that is going to receive orders, and you're going to serve out orders, serve the food. So, but we can't receive orders front end. So your front end acts as the face of the company or the face of the business, whereas the back end does validations of order. Okay, I want 10 number. I want pieces of wares. We ask you how much we return back the money. Okay, 100 pieces of wares, 90,000 times 10, or 9 million. How much you are going to pay, and then when you pay, we verify that you pay is actually correct. These are the works of backend developers. They do verification. They do payments integrations and stuff like that. Many things are also involved. Now, no. Basically, your website is called full stack. If a full stack website entails backend and front end, so it's not like a front end developer, a backend developer is better than a front end developer. Both of them work in sync, in tandem with each other to create a website. So I'm going to stop at this point. Do we have any questions that we want to ask so I can answer your questions, class? What technologies? This is main stack. There's Node.js, there's React, and there's MongoDB at the back. Okay. Yes. So, for beginners, I'm not going to teach us Mongo. I'm going to replace another uh, another database package called SQL, MySQL. Understand? Reason being, MongoDB is really technical for a beginner class. You understand? Really technical, but MySQL is very effective, and you enjoy MySQL. Interactive, very interactive. You understand? There are still other ones called Postgres, Postgres SQL, but these are used by international organizations. You understand? But MySQL is cheap, it's very accessible. It's not leading because when you are using Postgres, you might start to just server stuff like that. Using with most servers. You understand? So we're going to use MySQL, React, Node.js, and JavaScript with an extension of TypeScript. Okay, okay. JavaScript with extension of TypeScript. So we can do not Node.js. Node, I mentioned Node.js. Node.js is another. Node.js is a super extension of Node.js. That is, Node.js has server. It's a front end development with server coupled inside it. That's just it. So that's what we do. Okay. Yes, React has everything to do with our front end development. You're welcome. Who else has a question? You're welcome.